My career started with, I lived in a small town, grew up in a trailer park, and wanted to get out of the small town environment. One of those paths that I had seen some friends of mine go were the military. So I went into the military, got selected for US Air Force. And when I went through all of the onboarding, they ask you a series of questions. They give you SAT type of tests to go through as well. And based on that scoring, you got to choose what your first assignment was and what your job role was. I wanted to go into communications and tech at that time. Just IT encryption type of tech was very interesting to me. And so based on your score, you ended up, with a location, and I scored high. And when I scored high, I got Hawaii because I had a girlfriend at the time in North Carolina. I traded the Pentagon for that. The girlfriend didn't last, the career did. And in that, I was assigned to the Pentagon, Cheyenne Mountain, and did a short stint in Israel as well. That really kind of set my foundation of a purpose-built higher calling of working in cybersecurity, which I think we all have a role to the industry, we have a role to our clients, and then we have a role to our national defense as well. And that goes for companies of ours, customers of ours that have operations offshore as well, where we have to help them understand all of the aspects of politics as well as IT when it comes to cybersecurity as well. I would say, dealing with stress is probably one of my big strengths. I tend to digest and leverage strength as leverage stress as a strength. And I think, using kind of your experiences to get the best out of things is really a big thing. And in my particular case, and I've told the story before, is at the Pentagon, where I was in the US Air Force. At one point, I was sitting in front of a console that controlled a DoD satellite. And we lost the satellite. It's a much longer story. It wasn't my fault. However, at one point, I had Colin Powell, which was a 3-star general at the time, put his hand on my shoulder and say, "Son, there are people dying around the world right now because we can't communicate with them from the Pentagon." And I think that set context for the rest of my life. I think, whether you're an individual contributor or you're an executive, you have stress. And so over your career, you'll learn to deal with that stress in varying different ways. And your stress high points are going to be your reference point to make everything below that high point easier to consume, because it really gives you a relative comparison to what other people are going through. The more experience you have kind of broadly across multiple different functions, the better you're going to be able to lead teams, the better you're going to be able to interact with clients, the better you're going to be able to really add value across that spectrum. And so building towards that momentum of having that cross-functional experience was part of my early career foundation that I built. So I've done sales, I've done operations, I've done product management. I've done a whole bunch of different elements. I've even, done marketing. I also, early on learned the strength of a network. And so being able to build a strong network where, little things like every time I met somebody connecting on LinkedIn, or whether it's somebody that really inspired me, staying in contact with them every 6 months and getting their advice. Your aspiration in life should never have to interview for a job. Rather have people calling you and saying you are a perfect fit for this particular role and pulling you into those roles, rather than you going out and doing searches for jobs when it's time to make a move. It's always nice to be able to have a group of people always calling you, asking you to come work with them. And that's especially important as you get to executive levels and having a strong network of PE, VC, and other, executives that really want you to come and work alongside them or with them in a particular company. The biggest thing when starting your career is, again, network with the people that have you've done internships with, Internships, if you haven't done internships, do them. They are a great way to get to know industry participants. They're a great way to get great experience. They're great ways to test out a company to see if your culture really does fit. The biggest role for anybody interviewing for a job is be yourself. And I say that not flipping. I say that meaning, you don't want to come in, represent yourself as, a particular type or culture fit or something just to fit within what you perceive we are. Rather come in, talk about how you best work in an environment, what support system works best for you, what the right cultural fits are for you. And then if those two things line up, then that's a magical combination. And we looked at for that with every employee. I think the characteristics of any good employee is a genuine desire to know more. And so, if you ask a question and somebody gives you an answer and you stop there, I generally believe that that's probably not a good stopping point. You should drill down into it to really understand the context, to understand what they're saying, how they came to that answer over time as well. Because that's where the experience is, really learning about how people came to a conclusion, how they researched a particular topic, why they came to the conclusion they did, because just based on the facts, you may come to a different conclusion and be able to have that conversation interactively at the point of, that information exchange right from the very beginning. And so ultimately, somebody that is, really genuinely looking to learn. I mean, I would say, if you're a SOC analyst, for example, looking to come in, you're relatively junior. Have you been out building your own lab? Have you been able to do research of your own? Have you been able to download open source tools that are free and play with those in a lab environment? Those types of characteristics in an entry level position are extremely important, as well as, what have you done to develop your career over time as well, both within your job role as well as outside of your existing employment as well. I think the mentoring is two aspects. One, formal. Hey, I'm going to mentor you and we're going to achieve something over a period of time, which can only do with a certain number of people. Number two is doing mentoring sessions with larger groups of people, so you can talk about your experiences. I do that with various functions now. I did that with the interns, for example, and the other management team members do that as well. And then lastly is kind of informal. Hey, you're stuck, you need some help, you need to be a sounding board, and always making sure people feel comfortable coming to you and having that one-on-one conversation to really interact and have, an open conversation so that if they're stuck, they don't feel like, they feel uncomfortable in a situation where they're telling you that they're not able to solve something and helping them through that rather than them feeling like, it was their personal problem that they couldn't get over that hump. I think Pondurance, is an exciting opportunity for people coming into the industry as well as those with experience. One, we have a recognition of a higher calling mission, as I've talked about previously. Number two to that is we truly are building a learning environment, so everybody has an opportunity to continually get learning, and we expand that every year. Number three to that is because we are at a hyper growth industry and a hyper growth company, it creates opportunities to move into other roles, learn new responsibilities, new roles, or into management ultimately, if that's your desire. So there's lots of expandability within the company. We also a tech-enabled company, and so we don't believe that being a human being by yourself and doing everything manually is the right approach, nor do we believe, which the industry often says, that you can solve all problems with technology. We believe that to really pull out the empowerment of an individual, it's about taking technology and doing the simple things, the things that are repetitive, the things that nobody really wants to manually do, and bring that intelligence aspect of the human being on top of that tech platform and really become a tech-enabled differentiator in the marketplace that will allow us to really change the industry from where it is today, which is too much manual work, too much reliance only on technology, and really blend those things together as a differentiator for the employees, but also to the industry and the customers as well.